What's up and welcome to Me, You, and Switch 2. I am me, Tom Tate, and you are you, so let's talk about Switch 2. This is the latest and greatest Nintendo Switch 2 news brought to you every Tuesday and Friday in snackable episodes, 10 minutes or less. Today happens to be Friday, February 6th. It is 7:54 on the East Coast. This is episode 72. I believe this is episode 72, which is crazy. Yesterday, I put out a bonus episode. It was a recap of the Partner Direct. There was like 38-ish games, roughly, that were featured. That was my count. 17-minute episode. I went through all of the games in succession. Check that out if you want a quick recap. Obviously, it's not that quick. You could just watch the full Direct for 30 minutes. But if you want to get my opinions as well at the end, check out that episode. Today, I just want to double back to earlier this week. We got a ton of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined reviews, and I didn't have time to cover it all. So I wanted to go through and just kind of see how people are responding to this game. Pretty mixed, but I will go through it. This game officially released yesterday, February 5th. The original Dragon Quest VII released in 2001 in North America, and that was on PlayStation, the original PlayStation. And then they remade it for the Nintendo 3DS, releasing in 2013 in Japan and then 2016 in North America. So I don't know if they were just not planning to release it, and it just took them a really long time to get that game translated, but that's a 3-year span. I read maybe 8 reviews for this game, and I just wanted to give a quick roundup on what I heard. So starting with Game Informer's George Yang, George wrote, while its new art direction and mechanics make gameplay more engaging than ever before, the lack of challenge may put off veteran players. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is smooth sailing, but this ship's edges are sanded off a bit too much. He did applaud the combat, though. He said Dragon Quest VII Reimagined keeps the franchise's classic turn-based combat, but the highlight is the new moonlighting feature. It expands on the original's job system and now lets characters equip 2 vocations instead of 1. This opens the floodgates for so much creativity, flexibility, and customizations. So I guess you could have 2 jobs at the same time for a quick combo system. He also mentioned streamlined story progression options, which I personally am really enjoying playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake because I'm playing through it for the second or third time. He said there are easy, normal, and hard mode presets, as well as the ability to toggle different parameters separately, like experience and damage modifiers to tailor your experience. Additionally, the much appreciated objective marker makes story progression and finding map fragments less frustrating endeavors this time around. He gave it a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. IGN's Scott White, he wrote, this time around there is a clear focus on improving the pacing of one of Dragon Quest's most notorious entries, and Square Enix has succeeded in that regard. But some of the other adjustments Reimagined makes in an effort to appeal to newer players have come at the expense of longtime fans. And this is a trend that I saw as I was reading through all of the reviews. You can tell which reviewer played the original Dragon Quest or the 3DS remake and the ones who haven't. And even the ones who have, you can tell there's like a twinge of, I want my old Dragon Quest back, my challenging 100-hour Dragon Quest back. But then also, they're admitting in some ways that this is the way to remake this game in 2026. So a lot of reviewers, they did comment on how streamlined the game actually is, especially if they played that previous version. Scott wrote, when I rolled credits in Reimagined, I clocked it at just over 46 hours with my party hovering right around level 50, which is much shorter than both previous versions, although that time doesn't include either of the post-game dungeons or going for 100%, which will likely put you up at the 70-plus hour mark. He also wrote, this really is a literal reimagining of Dragon Quest VII as a sort of my first Dragon Quest. And I just also had to come to grips with the fact that it wasn't going to deliver the challenge and discovery that I usually play Dragon Quest games for. He gave this one a 7 out of 10. Polygon's Michael McWhirter also commented on how the length of the original could have prevented a lot of people from experiencing this game. He wrote, the developers of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined haven't tried to reinvent the way Dragon Quest has been played nearly since its inception. Instead, they've addressed the shortcomings of a 25-year-old entry, freeing it from the reputation it's been saddled with, a reputation that has turned off players who were intimidated by its infamous 100-hour length. Nintendo Insider's Sean Musgrove gave it an 8 out of 10. He wrote, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined leaves me in a weird position. If you were to ask me which version of the game I would rather play, I'd likely choose one of the previous ones. There's just a vibe to them that this game intentionally chooses to abandon. But if you were to ask me which version of the game I would recommend to others, it's this one. Mitch Vogel at Nintendo Life gave it a strong 9 out of 10. Mitch's joys, absolutely beautiful graphics, more engaging vocation system, streamlined story progression, and combat feels a little plain compared to more modern systems. He wrote, at any rate, I'd highly suggest you pick this up if you're looking for another high-quality, old-school JRPG for your collection. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined may not be all that innovative, but it absolutely nails its gameplay and aesthetics. Nintendo World Report's Jordan Rudick gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Jordan reached the credits in under 30 hours, which is pretty impressive without doing any optional content. But he also mentioned he used auto battle features for grinding and running through dungeons. He was one of the few reviewers who talked about performance, so I just want to share this paragraph. In terms of performance, the Nintendo Switch 2 version runs steady. With minimal load times and a smooth 60 frames per second, it is a delight to play through. The one noticeable oddity is that there is a clearly visible rendering line that makes textures and smaller obstacles load in a few frames late. It's probably something you will only start to notice many hours into your adventure, especially at the beginning of combat encounters. Other than that, the Switch 2 version comes highly recommended. The Switch 1 version offers a steady and smooth 30 frames per second, though it is a shame that for physical lovers, the Switch 1 version cannot be upgraded, and the physical Switch 2 release is restricted to a game keycard. So I hope, this is me speaking, I hope that you have room on your console and your SD card if you have one. I am at capacity with Final Fantasy VII. It's a shame, but I'm at capacity. Had to move some stuff around just to get that game on there. Pros, charming diorama art style, job system adjustments. Cons, edits have taken away some of its heart, and normal difficulty a bit on the easier side. Nintendo Life, they typically do this. They have a good review Roundup article that I'll link to in the show notes. But that's it for Dragon Quest. Again, if you've played this game before, it sounds like that colored your opinion a little bit. If you haven't played this game, it seems like it's one of the best ways to play it, especially if you don't have 100 hours to sink into an RPG. In other news this week, Yoshi and Balloon Kid hit the Game Boy Classics library on Nintendo Switch Online. The parent company of 2K Games, Take-Two, has removed the Switch version of Borderlands 4 from their release schedule, so that version of the game is on hold right now. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim Anniversary Edition, and Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, two of those games we saw in yesterday's Direct, these will be released by Bethesda as a physical code in a box. I cannot tell you how disappointed I am in this. As you know from listening to this podcast, I don't care if it's released on a game key card, but a physical code in a box is just outrageous to me. Unless you have a ornate display of Nintendo Switch 2 boxes, I don't understand why you would want a digital version in a useless box. But that's enough ranting for me. One thing I didn't realize, but Nintendo Life called it out, is that a game from yesterday's Direct, Another Eden Begins. It's coming to Switch 1 and Switch 2 this summer. This is from Masato Kato, one of the writers of Xenogears and Chrono Trigger. He also worked on Final Fantasy VII. He worked on Chrono Cross. He worked on a ton of games. He has a pretty wide and extensive catalog of games that he's worked on. The music is by Yosunori Mitsuda, who worked on many of those games as well. It seems like this is an adaptation of a 2017 mobile game called Another Eden, The Cat Beyond Time and Space. I've never played that game. I think it was riddled with gacha mechanics, so maybe the console version is a bit more streamlined as well. Either way, this definitely shot up on my radar after I kind of glossed over it in yesterday's montage. All right, that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for your time and attention. If you don't like the show, tell me. I'm on Blue Sky at Switch2Pod. That's Switch with the number 2 pod. If you do like the show, Tell everyone. Greatly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday. Much love. Now go play some games.